Cheers, queers! What's on the big gay agenda today, Theora?
Today, we're moving along in our flag means death discussion, and we're going to talk about season 2. We're going to start with episode 1, and we'll see how far we get. And Zoey's joining us today.
Hello.
Welcome, Zoey.
Yes.
Before we get into the queerness, though, you know what time it is.
Housekeeping time! Woo, woo.
Sounds like something Blue's Clues would do.
Right.
It is!
If you're watching this podcast on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel, give this video a like, and drop a comment to share your thoughts. We absolutely love hearing from you. For our podcast listeners, please download this episode and leave a review if you can. Your engagement helps us reach a broader audience and spread the joy of queer content. For even more exclusive queer content, early access to videos, and full reaction videos, join us on Patreon. Dive into discussions on our Discord channel, where we enjoy connecting with all of you. Please come, it'll be a hoot. Explore our merchandise at biggayenergypod.com to show your support. All links will be in the description. Lastly, stay connected with us on all social media platforms by following @BigGayEnergyPod. Your interactions mean the world to us, and these actions contribute to our ongoing celebration of queer media and advocacy for better representation. Thank you.
Woo. Thank you, Kaitlynn. So let's get into season 2, episode 1. So this episode opens with a dream sequence of Stede dueling Izzy on a beach. And I love that Stede in this opening sequence looks pretty burly. Like, he's got a beard, he looks ragged. So he's like more traditionally masculine looking. And he basically stabs Izzy for betraying him and Ed. Which it must have been very satisfying and is like feels long overdue for Stede. And in the dream, Izzy said, quote, "I never made you leave him. You did that yourself." So it's like, we come to find like this is Stede's dream. So Stede is clearly like very guilty over the fact that he like abandoned Ed, like he abandoned his family. And like, this is basically haunting him and manifesting in this as this dream of Izzy. And after he slays Izzy, Stede notices Ed running towards him down the shoreline. And so he immediately like bolts and like chases after him. And then we get this romantic running towards each other on the beach moment. And Stede just flat out tackles Ed when they meet in the middle. And I find this amazing and also really sweet because they're both like giggling and stuff. It's just so cute and precious. And like, I love that it's in here. And we should have had a clue that this was a dream because in the dream, Ed already has like his full-on Blackbeard beard back, which like, okay, Stede, that says a lot about you and what you prefer on Ed because the last time you saw him, he had a naked chin. So interesting, Stede. And also Ed's like, "I knew you'd find me, babe." Like, it's all this like terms of endearment being thrown at Stede undeservedly.
And even if you couldn't tell that it's a dream, Stede just rips like massive fucking ass.
Oh my god. Oh my god. The way he gets pulled out of the dream is wild. Like, but okay, Stede over and over again keeps asking Ed like if he forgives him, and he's like, "You're sure you're okay with everything?" So like, basically Stede is guilty and he's hoping the next time they meet everything's gonna be fine. More on that later as when they eventually meet. But okay, this is delusional Stede still. So he gets pulled out of the dream by the crew farting in real life because that's the reality of living in close quarters with a bunch of dudes and just people in general. And it's John apparently that has pulled Stede so unceremoniously out of this dream. And so then it ends up like showing the crew like in this like very close quarters, and they're just all sleeping together, some in hammocks, some on the floor. And Stede tries to call out Wee John. And he's making all this noise and like waking people up. And then Black Pete calls out Stede and he's like, "Listen, is this really as bad as you waking us all up because you're moaning Ed, oh Ed all night?" Which is so funny. So like, the crew's been going through it with Stede and in his post-Ed era, so
I love that part of the scene. That was my favorite. That one line just made the whole scene. But I have a question because I can't figure it out.
Okay. What is it?
Stede intentionally leave Ed? Because I thought the whole thing was that he couldn't find him. Looney Tunes.
I mean, yes and no, just because like he couldn't find him, but at the same time, it was him essentially not learning anything from when he abandoned Mary the first time.
Yes.
And he realized the gravity of the situation and what like the implication of him running off with Ed would be. So that scared him. So inadvertently he intentionally left Ed to go back to Mary because he felt like safe there. And then that got shattered because they didn't fucking want him there.
Yeah. And then he realized, oh, I'm in love with Ed when he was talking to Mary, basically. So, like, yeah, he had to do some growing before they could get reunited. So, yeah, main takeaway of the dream sequence, Stede is super haunted by the guilt of abandoning Ed now that he's gone through all the character growth with Mary, and he desperately wants Ed to forgive him. And Ed is clearly 100% on his mind all the time, so much that he's dreaming about Ed. And how he's dreaming about Ed is in a super romantic manner. So I love that. Thank you, writers, for giving us this. Other thing that's happening in the interim of like the crew trying to move on and without their ship, which is interesting. So they're basically stranded on the Republic of Pirates. How Stede and that one dinghy got them all to the Republic of Pirates? Right. Looney Tunes. But whatever.
They're piggybacking it.
He just like made multiple trips back and forth.
I imagine something like that. But that's what happened. And the Stede's like, we're doing great. And in the interim, he's writing letters to Ed, like Dear Diary letters, basically, to be like, we're doing great. We're moving along and blah, blah, blah. And he basically does the message in a bottle thing and like is like, I hope it gets to you.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you. Which is such a Stede thing to do. Because he's like, look, I know the odds of this letter getting to you is impossible, but like we met, so anything is possible. So I love this impractical but romantic thing that he is doing. It's very cute.
If they are able to find anyone in the ocean, these bottles can make it to Ed.
It's true.
And while writing this, apparently I had a theory for season 3 or a good reboot story. So all the bottles show up at once. It's just like this collection of like all these bottles. And it is Ed reading it. So when they show up, Ed is reading it next to Stede before bed. So they're just like laying in bed together after a long day working at the inn. And we flash back to what was going on for Stede while he's writing these letters. But while Ed's reading it, we just keep getting pulled back to present day because he keeps making fun of all the shit that he writes. Because Stede's so lovesick.
Wow, Kaitlynn.
And then he tells his own stories of what was happening at the same time. And my vision for this is kind of like How I Met Your Mother, of them explaining this past.
That'd be really, really cute. Yeah. Hey, anything can happen on this show. Why not?
Looney Tunes.
Looney Tunes.
That's the least Looney Tune out of everything.
I agree. So, speaking of Looney Tunes, apparently the crew is just working for Spanish Jackie now. So, Spanish Jackie's over the nose jar enough to be like, yeah, I could use extra help. My business is booming. And I love that, like, the way they get their in, like, with Jackie, is she thinks the Swede's hot.
Yeah. I also think... Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was going to say their plot point is really cute, actually.
It really is. I ship the fuck out of them.
Right?
But I do think it's funny that I cannot remember his name for the life of me, but it's one of the main husbands that we see that's like the barkeep. I think it's hilarious how like in season 1 he was like insinuating, or not even insinuating, he was wanting the idea to come true of them having like a restaurant, and she was like, fuck no, I'd have to pay for more staff. And then we see them working for Jackie and like she's still not paying them. All the money is given back to her. So like it's funny how like her husband got his way, but not in the way he wanted.
Yeah, exactly. And he would like be pissed if he knew it was this crew in particular. He hates them.
Theora, could you do me a favor and say this so I can say my punchline that's definitely not going to be funny anymore?
Spanish Jackie is courting the Swede, which is a sweet plot point.
Don't you mean it's a Swede plot point?
I sure do.
Thank you.
I love it. Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I just know for a fact when Kaitlynn was writing that, she was like giggling her fucking ass off.
Absolutely.
I think I was in the middle of work doing this, actually.
I love this plot point though for a lot of reasons, but like it has so much. It happens over the course of basically one episode mostly, and the amount of character growth the Swede has is crazy in one episode, which I love that so much. Because even the side characters are very three-dimensional in this show, which is something I really appreciate. Okay. All right. So on that line, I like the scene where Stede is acting like the greeter. So like we kind of like a scene of like basically them working for Jackie, and Stede is acting like the greeter for the bar to like the pirates who are like fuck off and stuff. But to me, it reminds me is like almost like what the greeter at an inn would do. So it's almost like foreshadowing like where this is all headed, which I like that little thing is in there. All right. So while Stede and the crew are doing that, Ed has become a real life pirate wedding crasher. So he takes his crew and they totally demolish basically this wedding that's happening on a boat because rich people have nothing better to do with themselves than have crazy elaborate weddings. And so like they're like, let's get married at sea. Sure.
That still tracks for today.
Exactly. So Ed's like, fuck love on the ocean. And so he crashes the wedding basically. And so while the crew is like murdering everybody, he takes there's a cake topper of the dude who's like getting married, who looks a lot like Stede, and then the bride. And so he takes the cake topper that looks like Stede, which again is showing us like at the end of season 1, while he's in the Blackbeard persona, human Ed is still in there pining and sad about Stede. So hence why he's crashing weddings. He's basically like, love is not real. No one's allowed to have love if I can't have it. I'm going to burn your love to the ground, which is basically what he's doing.
Which makes it so impactful when he goes, when he's like the priest is like, are you a demon? Or what is this type of demon or whatever? And he goes, I'm the devil.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Thank you for the setup, because right after I am the devil, Ed says, and these are the kids. And I couldn't help but think that it really is like Stede and Ed are divorced and had to split up the kids in the settlement. I mean, it was really only Ed's choice to do that. But anyway, Stede got the leftovers. But it's kind of like some weird parent trap type stuff. Like they have to get them back together. Side note, it's highly wrong to separate twins, by the way. Because, like, why do that? That's for the Parent Trap movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's just weird.
The drama of it all. It is fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. Everybody needs therapy in that movie.
For real. I will say though, Ed's further descent into madness is wild, but it's even more wild that like he still tries to find like the simple things, like with like the whole like cake topper of Stede, or like looks like Stede, and like him just kind of being like, all right, goes to my little pocket.
I love that. Yeah, it's very cute. And also like I think it's a character quirk of like Ed's in a way that he's like, he does like having mementos that mean something to him. Mm-hmm. You know, like he carried the silk around like a tangible memory, and he's doing the same thing here. So he does do that despite being like, fuck all this. He's like, no, but this is I keep it. It's my emotional support cake topper.
Emotional support cake topper.
Also, I'm so sorry for anybody who like hates eye touching. My eyelashes are just like poking in my eyeball, so I apologize for that. I know some people are grossed out by that, but like I apologize.
It's okay. Don't worry, Zoey.
It's okay. We have an audio version only of this podcast. They can go.
They don't know what's going on. Just listen. Don't look. Okay.
I mean, it works. It works for YouTube as well. Just don't look at the screen.
Don't look at the screen. All right, so in this wedding crashing, during the fight, we see Jim and Frenchie, who were force adopted into Ed's crew, have basically adjusted to being part of like his, Blackbeard's pirates. And I love that when they show them fighting, Frenchie's weapon of choice is like claws, where he looks like Wolverine. But I know, like to us, like the X-Men character with the claws, but like to him, it's a cat because he thinks those are the scariest
100%.
things.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's a black cat.
Well, no, now today it's just he's shredding pork. They have those things to shred pork.
I love that.
He's just helping Roach in the kitchen.
Oh my god. Because like Ed, at the beginning of the parallel of like demons, and he thinks that they're witches. So I just love that he basically thinks he's a giant cat and that's how he's being scary. So
his persona, if you will.
I love it so much. And basically, like, the crew is they're just being savage the way they just go after, like, no holds barred against this, like, group of rich people. But later we cut to, like, below deck where, like, they're getting to eat the cake. That's their reward. And just, like, the reality of the crew just being dead inside and super traumatized. Like, they're not okay with all this murder and pillage that, like, Ed is putting them through. And it's just like too much even for like the veterans. Like Fang starts crying. Like,
Fang's also a teddy bear, so I mean, come on.
He's so sweet, but they got soft, and that's not a bad thing. But the way that Stede was running the ship, they got used to that. If you're not in the constant fight or flight of being the pirate in Blackbeard's crew, which you don't really have the choice to flight, but it's a whole different atmosphere.
I mean, yes, but the reason why I'm bringing up veterans like Fang is because like they were used to like being a part of Blackbeard's crew where they were traditional pirates, and it's showing that what they're going through now is too much for even then. So like this is atypical. Like he's gone off the deep end with how much he's like working them basically, and how like ruthless Blackbeard is being. And like we find later that he's like not doing this because they need money. He's just doing it to do it. So like it's like
bored.
Well, he's running from his heartbreak and he's dragging these people along with him and like emotionally and like physically traumatizing them. So yeah, it's a lot. This is atypical what's going on. And to go back to the part you talked about where the devil, my kids scene. So Ed's the one that calls himself the devil, which I think is another indicator of his headspace. Remember, I am the Kraken, the monster. And if you look at Ed's like outfit, it's atypical for Blackbeard too. He has multiple pistols strapped to his front. And recall in season 1 where Ed and Stede were looking at the books and Ed's like, oh, look, it's Blackbeard. And Ed got offended at the photo because he's like, what the fuck is this? Why do I have so many pistols? Why are they showing me so many pistols and so many knives? He's like, I have one pistol and one knife, like a normal person. And here's, again, he's like playing into the myth of Blackbeard and the monster that people expect him to be. Like, so it's like, he's not even really Blackbeard anymore. He's being like very over the top in all aspects. So he's like, it shows me that like Ed is trying too hard to even be like the Blackbeard everyone expects him to be, which like adds to like the sadness and like that I feel for Ed because like he's really lost basically.
Well, I mean, to even take it a step further, it's purely he's gotten so used to being just Ed that he doesn't know how to be Blackbeard, and that's why he's acting like all over the top and shit, and essentially cosplaying Blackbeard.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way of framing it for sure. So and it's not working for his crew because they're like, this is not the Blackbeard we used to work for. This is crazy. This is Looney Tunes in a bad way. Right, so back to Stede's crew on the Republic of Pirates. So here we meet the soup vendor, Susan. We love her. Who is absolutely 100% flirting with Olu. Olu? Did I say it right?
Yeah.
God damn it. Every time.
The next note is just my own stupidity. We can skip it.
Okay. So we'll come back to Susan. Susan's important. All right. So then eventually things don't work out with Spanish Jackie because they're trying to save up money to get their ship so they can get out of there. And Jackie's like, no, I own you. Give me all your money. Here's a bunch of fees. I love this is like a modern twist of just like, no, there's fees. So many fees. Swede come up with this fee and he's like, ongoing job training. She's like, absolutely. And like takes all her money. Which is such a modern.
And they're just like, Swede, what the fuck?
He's being a good future husband.
Yeah, it cracks me up purely how the Stede and the crew is like trying to rebel against her, and she's like, oh yeah, so that's my 20 husbands. And Stede's Swede's like, oh, I've had breakfast with them. Yeah, you'll have a lot more breakfasts with them as well.
I love that. Yeah, Swede doesn't know he's being courted, which is really funny. He's like, okay.
He's like, I'm getting attention from a woman.
Oh my god, it's so funny.
He's adorable.
He's adorable. I love this episode for him. So anyway, the crew gets kicked out of Spanish Jackies, and they're like trolls living under a bridge, basically, after that. And so it starts raining, and Steve's like, I need a moment. So he stalks out into town, and he finds the wanted poster of Blackbeard, and he starts talking to it, and basically mentions that he's afraid, his big fear is that Ed has moved on and he's having a much better life without him. Because, like, look at all, like, the pirating he's doing. He's like, he didn't do that with me. He's better off, kind of thing. So while he's wallowing, we meet Richard Baines, or Ricky, as we come to learn later. And he's
that like, nose dude?
Yes. Not yet, but he will be.
Yeah.
So he's trying to talk to Stede, but, the whole time, but Stede's like, this creepy weirdo, whatever. But later he tracks him down and they actually talk, and we find out that, like, basically, like, Richard is trying to essentially be Stede. He's like, I was very inspired by the Gentleman Pirate. I was a rich boy and a minor prince who was bored with my life, and now I want to be a pirate just like you, basically. So Stede is, like, ego boosted by this, and he's like, okay, let me try to low-key mentor you. But it doesn't work out, and we'll get to that later. In the conversation with Ricky mentions the existence of a Roman puzzle chest that Jackie has at the foot of her bed. And being learned men, they're like, oh, that means that there's hidden, there's treasure in there and it's locked up. That's important. You only keep valuables in that thing. So Stede makes a plan to go steal that. Meanwhile, the Swede. The Swede and the Swede. There's the title of the episode. Swede is in a very happy relationship with Jackie. But he does help the crew pilfer this chest because he owes a life debt and he is a pirate, but an honorable man.
Who helps the crew?
The Swede.
The Swede.
It also cracks me up because this is another example of a scene where it sounds like they're fucking, but they're not actually fucking.
Oh my god, with Jackie?
Was Swede trying to give her a massage?
Because I think they're trying to play on the fact that he's Swedish and like a Swedish massage.
Yeah.
And she's never had one.
Yeah,
she's like, why are you so good at this?
Yeah, I thought about that immediately. I thought it was a really
I did not get that.
Yeah. Oh my god, that scene is so funny. I love that she's so distracted by him that they like managed to get a whole ass chest out of her room.
That must have been like a hell of a massage, dude. I just want a nice little massage where I just conk out.
I also love that he's the one who turned around for plausible deniability, but he could have had her like face the other way as well to not have her see them take the chest.
Well, she would have saw them come into the room though.
Oh,
from the side eye. Yeah.
So that was the right way to go, Swede. And it just kept her very distracted. Fuck them hammies up. That was great. Okay. So while that's all happening, basically Izzy, we get more context of like what Izzy and Ed's relationship looks like right now, because where we left off, it was Blackbeard taking some toes, and things have gotten a lot worse in their relationship because Ed at this point has taken more toes from Izzy every time like Izzy displeases him, and it's clearly taking its toll on Izzy. Like Izzy is basically like got what he wanted, right? He has Blackbeard back, but this is like you said, Zoey, a cosplayed over the top demon version of Blackbeard. And like Izzy's like trying to be like, yeah, this is great, but we can see that it very much is not, it's not healthy, like for anybody, including Izzy. And I really love the scene where he's alone with the crew and Fang notices that Izzy's not okay, and he's like, Izzy, are you okay? And Izzy's like, I'm fine, whatever. And then Fang hugs him. And that's where like this, like Izzy's like emotions come out and he starts getting really upset, and like, cause he's safe in like Fang's arms. And it's just a very sweet moment. And I really love that moment of like camaraderie where it's like, we see you're suffering too, Izzy, even if Blackbeard won't acknowledge that he's making us and you miserable.
I will say a very impactful scene was when Izzy walks out to Blackbeard treating the crew kind of shittily, and he decides to call him out for it, and he's like, what you're doing is not okay, this, that, the other. And then like in hindsight, Izzy should not have done that with everything Ed's put him through. But then, like, the fact that, like, Ed just, like, kind of comes to the, like, a quick split decision and turns around and fucking shoots Izzy is just, like, that just shows, like, how shitty their current relationship is. And it's very weird seeing, like, Ed being on, like, the other side of the stick with, like, because, like, Izzy was, like, betraying and, like, manipulating, being narcissistic, and then now he's on the other side of that and getting mistreated by Ed, getting fucking tortured and shot and borderline, like, trying to get killed by him. Like, it's just so weird, like, seeing, like, the dynamic flip with that. Because again, like you said, he got what he wanted, but at what cost?
Yeah, and it's one of those scenarios where, like, everybody's right and everybody's wrong. Like, you know, Izzy thinks he's doing what's best for Ed, but really he betrayed Ed, and then Ed, like, is doing the reverse of that. So, like, it's toxic on so many levels. And part of what makes Ed, like, ramps him up basically to shoot Izzy is that when they're alone and Izzy's trying to be like, because he doesn't just confront him out with the crew. Before that, he confronts Ed privately. And he's like, I'm worried about you. I care about you, which is weird coming from the guy that, like, basically is the reason we're in this scenario. So, like, Ed's like, yeah, whatever, Izzy. And then Izzy makes the grave mistake of quoting Stede, where he's like, we should really talk it through. And then Ed finishes as a crew. And you just see the darkness, like, go over his face. And so, because that's really the crux of all this. Like, Stede's not here because of Izzy, really. So yeah, it really boils down to the fact that, like,
yeah, sorry, I was trying to figure out why because of Izzy, because he betrayed. Yeah, got it.
He betrayed them and sold them out, you know, to the English. And so it's interesting for a lot of reasons, because Izzy wanted Blackbeard so badly, but not like this. Like, it's like expectation versus reality again going awry. And Ed is really taking all of his frustration out on Izzy most of all. Hence why he's taking his toes and nobody else's. Because Izzy was somebody who's saying in the scene, like, I care about you, Ed, but, like, he's like, do you? You took away my happiness. Like, you're the one that betrayed me. So in a lot of ways, like, Izzy is also the stand-in for Stede, and, like, Blackbeard is taking out his hurt feelings towards Stede onto Izzy, especially when Izzy quotes him. That's when he's like, it's over. And I think that's what made it really easy for Ed to be like, shoot you in the leg. Like,
yeah. And I will say, I think it's very important to note that not only is Ed feeling these emotions, he's also going through the stages of grief.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And, like, I thought that was really well played, because, like, he's mourning, like, a lot. Like, he's mourning, like, the life he could have had, like, retiring, getting the inn. He's mourning the fact, like, his relationship with Stede, because he doesn't know if he's dead or if he just left him. Like, there's so many things that he's just dealing with, and, like we established before, he's dealing with it by himself. And giving Izzy, like, the benefit of the doubt, he did try to, have Ed kind of open up to him and confront him. And, like, just kind of comfort him and be there for him. But Izzy already did so much damage that Ed didn't think he was sincere enough and just thought he was going to make fun of him with his feelings and everything, kind of just twisted and shit talk Stede. So, like, it definitely, like, going back to the talk it through as a crew line, like, that was absolutely the breaking point for Ed, just because he's like, you caused us so much trauma in our relationship and you have the audacity to fucking quote him. So, like, that was purely, like, the final straw that it, like, drove him further into, like, the madness he's going through.
Yeah, it's like too little, too late kind of stuff. But don't worry, we'll come back to them. So, okay, so back to the Republic of Pirates. Okay, so the crew successfully gets the chest out into the open. And and they get caught by Jackie. And the reason they get caught is because Ricky, who was supposed to be keeping watch, but he's like, that's boring. He comes into the bar and has this conversation with Stede where he's like, hey, Stede, where you went wrong as the gentleman pirate is you didn't brand yourself, which I do love this, because it's like the fatal flaw with branding, right? It's like such a comment on real life now. Anyway, so he's like, my signature is that I leave this weird drink. So they know they got Rickied, Rickrolled or whatever. That's really kind of funny. So anyway, so he starts making this drink and Steve's like, fuck this. And he goes outside. And so the clinking at the bar is what gets Jackie's attention.
They would have gotten away with it.
Exactly. This is the fatal flaw. Well, I'm trying to be a brand, and it's like instead of a person, and like, okay. So that's what ends up getting them caught. And she gets a fancy nose for her nose jar when she catches him. Because this man has already been banned from Jackie's, and then she finds him back in the bar, and she's like, absolutely not. So she takes his nose. And so Jackie then comes outside and finds Stede's crew with the chest, which they now know there's indigo in it. And the crew doesn't know what that is. But Stede, the fancy man, is like, I know what this is. This is expensive dye. Like, anyway. So Jackie's out there and she's like, what the fuck? And I love, my favorite line from Stede is, Jackie, this isn't what it looks like, depending on what you think this looks like.
Yeah.
It's such a good line.
What else did he think that she would think it was?
It doesn't matter. It's just such a good line.
Knowing Stede, there's the delusion of a possibility that she might think that they were just cleaning her chest.
Right, no, exactly.
Like,
We're airing it out.
Stede's character, like, he purely could have, like, just done that and been like, oh, we were just, polishing it up.
Exactly. No, there's a benevolent reason for this. So, okay. Okay, so Jackie's obviously not pleased with this. So just when things start escalating to nose jar level with Stede's crew, Susan shows up.
Oh, Susan.
Like, war regalia with a golden sword. And Susan sweet talks her way into getting the chest of indigo, because she just throws some money at Jackie, throws a little bit more money, and Jackie's like, whatever, take it. So, good job.
Yes. All hail Super Pirate Queen!
Woo! Yes. So then when she gets that and like the Swede ends up going with Jackie, we get a happy ending for them. Part of the deal is that Susan's like, I'm buying these people, like Stede's crew. And Jackie's like, whatever. They're annoying. They're the worst. Please get them off my island. Okay. So Susan walks away with the chest of indigo and then the crew. And Auntie's like, you work for her now. Get this fucking crew. Get this pile of indigo onto our ship. And Olu, who's been befriending / flirting with Susan, comes up to her and he's like, why did you just pay all that money for that indigo? What the hell? And she's like, oh, please. That shit is worth 3 times what I just paid for it. Like, I just got away with a sweet deal. And she's like, I've noticed here with you guys that, like, people here don't really know anything. And it's the first tip off that, like, she's very worldly and actually is a very savvy business person compared to, like, everybody else. Because think about how she got away with that. Like, she has an army. She could have just taken that. But she's like, I'm making allies and friends, not foes where I don't need to. So, like, strategically, she's like, I'll underpay you to get what I want versus, like, taking it by force, which is what Jackie was just trying to do to the crew. So, like, she's a smart woman.
She's the smartest out of everybody.
Yeah. Correct.
I don't know. I feel like Buttons is a sleeper agent, and he's like really fucking smart. He just feigns ignorance and plays into the crutch of the Sea Witch.
Buttons is not of this world, so like Buttons, his intelligence doesn't translate into human
sure, like he's for sure just like a land, like a lost at sea alien.
Yes, and I love him forever for that. Okay, so meanwhile, things are getting worse with Blackbeard's crew. Fang is super upset, like on top of the ship and just like sobbing. And Jim is trying to console Fang, and he tells Fang the Pinocchio story. And like Fang's like, do the voices, do the voices. And so Jim does the voices to appease Fang, and it's so cute. Oh my god, I love the way that that's a recurring thing. Is just the voices of the stories, like.
It's like toddlers. Like, we need the voices. It's not the same without the voices.
The voices.
To be fair, though, if I couldn't read and I didn't have, like, pictures in a book, I would want somebody to do the fucking voice.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And but it's really TV sweet existed back then either. It's like, this is their only form of entertainment. And hearing the story act out.
They invented voice acting.
They did. Good job, Stede.
Which is very ironic. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's very ironic that like Jim is the one doing it because Vico's also a voice actor.
That is ironic.
An actor.
I just love the point being driven home is that everybody misses Stede, even like Blackbeard's OG crew. So I do love that. Okay, so now that Izzy's been shot, as we talked about, and like basically Ed was like, Frenchie, you're the new first mate. Go kill the old first mate. Get rid of him, because that's how the turnover works on pirate crews. And Frenchie's like, sure, whatever. And like we don't see the end of that until like next episode. So put that aside for now. So he, now fully being the first mate or whatever, he goes to find Ed for an assignment. He's like, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing stuff. Like he's on the job training. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Tell me what to do, captain, my captain. And Ed's basically on one of the ends of the ship. I don't know what they're called because I don't know nautical things. But he's basically like looking out at the sea, being sad in his feels when Frenchie finds him. And he tells him this story about a bird that never touches land. Like it's born in the sky and it doesn't know anything else but just like constantly being in the air. And it like never, ever, ever stops. And it's like, Frenchie's like, that seems impossible. And obviously, that's not a thing. But it's basically a story about how Ed feels. Like, he's afraid to touch land, i.e., like, find Stede. So basically, he's like, we're going to constantly circle. We're just going to be at sea forever and just, like, destroy he wants to burn the world down, basically.
I want to watch the world burn.
But despite all that, he still keeps the little Stede figurine, showing that, like, there's, it's his little secret he's keeping from everyone else, but like they all fucking know why he's upset. It's not really a secret.
I'm still over here trying to figure out how that would even be possible for a bird to never touch the ground.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
I mean, technically the tree isn't ground.
But he's saying it's constantly in the air.
Yeah.
And never touches anything, which is insane. Anyway, so so that's how it's going with Ed. It's going by not going well. And then at the very end of the episode, we get the resolution with the crew of the Revenge. So they're in a dinghy being led, or like, not led, they are rowing to a different vessel because they're now the property of Susan. And they find out while they're, actually, no. Sorry, the two scenes cut together. So the end of Ed's scene is basically he's looking at the moon going, fuck you, Stede. And then it opens with Stede looking at the same moon saying, good night, Ed. So, like, and then we transition to like, what the hell happened? So the crew learns that basically they are now the property of Zheng, the Pirate Queen. So they're about to have a great old time being part of her fleet of like 80,000 pirates.
80,000? Oh, there's more than one ship.
Yeah, because so
I'm not the smartest person.
Fleet is multiple ships.
I did just want to point out, just so we don't get roasted for not knowing this, there is a bird that doesn't touch the ground. It's called the common swift, and it's been recorded to not touch the ground for upwards to 10 months. Is the longest flight that has ever been recorded for this bird.
Okay, but it's not its whole life. It's
still, that's the bird that he's talking about.
Okay. I mean, I also thought he was talking about like an albatross, because those birds like are at sea flying for like a really long time, but it's not their whole life that I'm aware of they do that for.
Anyway, sounds awful.
It does. All right. Anything else about 201 before we move on to 202?
No. Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I think it's absolutely hilarious and like really well done how they like announce that Susan is Zheng the Pirate Queen, just good old Zangy Sao. I was like, oh, it's amazing. And especially how Auntie was like, avert your gaze. This is
your gaze.
The Pirate Queen. And they're just like, I don't know what the fuck that means, but okay.
Oh my god, I love later where they can't say China, and they're like, China, a place called China. Because these are all illiterate people who don't know any, like, pirates are usually like people who had horrible prospects, so they're like illiterate and they don't know what the hell China is. They've never been to it. So yeah, I love that.
Okay. So Steve's the only person who actually knows.
Yes, he's like, holy shit. Yeah, exactly. He's right.
It's like that big thing on the map.
Yeah, that's why he's the one who knew what indigo was and that it's valuable. And yeah, exactly. So he's like, oh fuck, she conquered China. That's a big fucking deal. Okay, so 202. So 202 opens with Stede dreaming about Ed again. And we're reliving the "you are fine things well" moment. And then we cut to Stede like in the present. So thank you, Gypsy, for pointing out that like we go from like the red silk that Ed has to like this red piece of fabric that's around Stede's neck, and it's apparently a piece of fabric from an old couch because he wanted to feel fancy because all his fancy clothes are gone. So I love Stede being Stede.
And Reese, because he wants to be fancy as well.
Because that's his character. So I love that he made it work. He made it work. All right, so in the beginning, Ed is also in his fields. He's staring at the cake topper, and then he's got a second cake topper. I guess he took both of them and painted one into a Blackbeard / Ed cake topper. So he's got like this. So he's got figurines and like make him kiss and stuff. But that's not what he's doing. That's what he should be doing. But he's too sad. So it's basically It's getting to the point where it's too much to have this like reminder of Stede and Ed and like what could have been. So like he gets to like the like a window and like basically like pushes them sequentially out, and it's like that's him giving up on his dream of like Stede, or like moving on from the hope that like they can, I don't know, the hope of that being a thing again, I guess.
So this is a really sad moment because it's like it's representing the last bit of humanity left in him. And when he throws it overboard, he's like, all right, that's it. It's gone. And he's fully Blackbeard 2.0.
Yeah, because the next time we see him, he's like cleaning up the place and like doing his version of moving on by like you said, being Blackbeard, which is sad. Okay, but what's not sad is the red flag. So we shoot on over to the crew, who's getting used to Zheng's leadership style, which is a lot like Stede's in a way. Like she's considerate of people's feelings and isn't too overbearing. And she has Auntie, her like first mate, to be like the tough enforcer. It's kind of like how things went with Ed and Stede. It's kind of like presenting as good cop, bad cop in a way. But Zheng will do some violence if she needs to, but it's not her go-to,
I will say, oh, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, her leadership style is purely fuck around and find out. Like,
yeah,
100%.
No, it is.
I love that they have her be considerate of other people's feelings. Like, they could have done the very stereotypical version of a powerful woman who is just like mean to everyone, only looks out for herself, but they want to show that it actually is possible to be a decent human being and powerful at the same time. New concept, I know, right?
Yeah, because like the version of quote a powerful woman that you're describing is basically just like a woman trying to be powerful in a man's world. Like that's what men are like as leaders, right? Like ruthless, only looking out for themselves. That's like the captain mentality of like Blackbeard, especially right now, where he's like, "Fuck what the crew wants. We're doing this because I said so." Whereas Zheng is smarter. She's very she's more strategic and is playing the long game, which is more of like an Eastern thinking versus Western thinking in a way. So she's always playing the long game. She's like, if I kill you, I can't use you later. So I'd rather like make an ally and then call upon that allyship when I need you versus like just kill you and burn that bridge. She's very smart. And I just love Auntie and just she's the iron fist on the ship though.
Yeah, no, I absolutely adore Auntie and Button's voodoo sea witch conversation.
Oh, yes.
Like she like that just kind of shows that like she's not all like stern and serious 24/7. She also has her own delusions. So just and like the fact that Buttons was just like eating that shit up too.
Oh my god, I love that scene so much. Yeah, there's a lot to again, there's like in the show, the side characters they're 3-dimensional, which I fucking love. Like I love it so much. Okay, so then we get to the crux of like, okay, why is the crew even with Zheng? If she has like all she conquered China, she has a fleet of pirates. Why does she need them? And basically she took a chance on them because they have soft energy, aka they're weak. But really she took them to get closer to Olu because girl caught feelings. And one of my favorite scenes of just like this is Zheng's delusion, where she orders. So basically, everybody gets divided up what to assignments of what to do. Like a lot happens in towels apparently. And Olu's assignment is cleaning Zheng's office because she wants eye candy, basically. And she has him like organize her books, which are scrolls, basically. And he's illiterate, so he doesn't know what he's doing. And so I love that Auntie calls her out and she's like, I know what this is. I know what this is.
I love that Olu goes through all the ways he could possibly organize these scrolls, just like being like, how do you want it? And Zheng's just like, oh, no, don't worry about it. The thing is most important, off the floor. And he says, okay, and then throws a scroll on the floor.
Right. Because he's organizing them by weight, and he's like, that's the wrong weight. So he throws it on the floor. Like, it's so funny. And Auntie's like, for fuck's sake, Zheng.
Yeah, I think it's funny how like he chose to do it based on weight and not by color.
That isn't, yeah.
Like that would have been like the smarter way to do things, not like, especially because of like the book aspect. Like some books, like they'd usually tend to be around like the same size and like
right.
weight. So like color coding would have been far more easier.
Were they different colors? I thought it was just like scroll.
It was scrolls, and then I believe like actual books as well.
Yeah, like apparently this makes sense to Olu, and this makes sense to Auntie. She's like, listen, girl, you don't need this distraction. Like you're gonna get, you're the queen. You have to be like in charge of shit. This is a distraction. And then like 3 seconds later, she discovers that Olu fucks up the war map, where Auntie so diligently is tracking the entire fleet of like Zheng's fleet, and just the murder coming off of Auntie. Zheng's like, Olu, let's get out of here. Let her breathe before she kills you.
If Zheng wasn't falling for Olu, I feel like she would have also been upset because that's their tracker. Like, you can't do anything now.
Olu would not have been in that office. That's the only reason he is in that office.
That is true.
That's the point.
To be fair, when you're looking at it, it just kind of looks like a board game that they didn't have time to clean up. So, like, Battleship. Yeah.
To be fair, like, pirates aren't usually armies. They're not armies. Like, that's what made Zheng in real life so unique. Like, she basically was, like, had her own navy, which is atypical. It's usually just the one ship. So there's nothing for them to track unless they're, like, trying to track other vessels and, like, pillage them, basically. So, like, why would a pirate have a war map? He's probably never seen that before in his life. So he's like, I don't know what this is. Let me color code. Like, that he color coded. He's like, I put the little ships, they color coded them. I tried to do a good job. My Auntie's like,
which is wild
that was tracking everything.
But she was watching him clean up. So I don't understand how that happened.
Not to mention, it's wild how he color coded the ships, but not stuff he's
right. Olu logic. But anyway, like, okay, so then they end up on deck, Zheng and Olu, so Auntie can redo the map. And that's when we get the "you're the break in my day" conversation. And, like, it's so cute. Why am I shipping a heterosexual couple in this show? I love them so much. They're so cute.
Honestly, this is my favorite hetero couple. Like, I don't find myself shipping them very hard, but both of these characters are amazing.
They're so cute.
And their dynamic is cute.
Oh, 100%.
I love seeing, like, a powerful character become soft with somebody. It's adorable.
Just like a badass girl, and then like her soft teddy bear.
It's what she deserves. She conquered China.
100%.
Okay, I love them. Okay, and then another thing we learn on the Red Flag is that Lucius has been here the whole time, and that's because where we left off with him is Blackbeard tossed him overboard, and then he ended up on this ship because Looney Tunes. So we get a lovely.
Every time we say Looney Tunes, like, oh my gosh, I've never said Looney Tunes more in my life than I have this past month.
Fuck yeah! Thank you, Gypsy. Okay, but we get this lovely reunion. I love that he comes in and he's like, "Yes, Queen," which is great. And then, but like, then we get this lovely reunion with not only Black Pete, but just the whole crew of the Revenge, just like excitedly screams and like tackles him out of joy. And I love Auntie and Zheng are watching this, and Auntie in the background, she's like, "Men are so emotional," which is so funny.
I love this scene. It's so cute. They're like, "One of our own. We missed you."
It is. They do miss him, but then they want to know what the hell happened to you. But Rat Boy isn't super forthcoming with the truth about what happened, like why he wasn't on the Revenge. Yeah.
I don't blame him one bit.
He is so traumatized, and like I think that he's just like doesn't want to relive it at the moment. So then he has this, but first he wants to express his frustration at Stede because Stede is the reason he was manhandled by Blackbeard. So basically he finds Stede in towels because that's where he was assigned, and he's not helping. Instead of helping, he's diligently reviewing the wanted poster of Blackbeard and trying to figure out where the hell Stede is. Not Stede, Ed is, by like tracing all of the pillaging. And he's like, is he in Cuba? I don't know where he is. And let's see. Where are we at? Oh, I skipped something. That's okay. I'll come back to it. But basically, like, these two have to talk is the bottom line. And in this scene, Stede is so once again, Stede's fatal flaw is becoming so entrenched in his own bullshit that he can't see the people around him and what turmoil they're going through. So like Lucius calls him out on it. He's like, you're not even asking how I'm doing, what happened to me. You're asking me no questions. You're just immediately trying to like rope him into like the help me find Ed stuff. And so in his frustration, like Lucius tells him off, which I love. But eventually the person that he opens up to is Stede about how he kind of like survived, basically, because he won't tell Black Pete because he's afraid, because that's a lot to like unload on your partner, like all the horrible shit that he just went through. And Stede's like, I'm low stakes, you don't care about me, tell me, unburden yourself. So I do love that he does that.
I also feel like it was very needed for Lucius's character in general, because he's very much so like for the most part we've seen him acting like a doormat.
Yes,
like when it comes to Stede, so like the fact that he actually like decided to say like enough's enough, you're either gonna fucking listen to me or we're not talking, because we're not doing this bullshit where you fucking confide in me but I can't even talk about my fucking problems. We're not doing that. I'm done. I'm over it. And like it I feel like the last straw for him was either getting pushed over the edge or the reasoning behind the name Rat Boy.
Ooh, that was a fucked up fucking story. But yeah, he's so pissed when he gets back, when he's alone with Stede. And I think partially why it hurts so much is because like Lucius has been super ride or die for Stede. Like he's the one that like on the treasure hunt was like the one that talked to Ed and was like, hey, like, can't you see what he's doing? Like, and the reason he ended up in this situation is because Stede broke Ed's heart, and then Ed took it out on Lucius. So like, yeah, he has every right to be super, super pissed. So I do love that it is Stede who's the one who's like, hey, don't be like me. Look at the state of my relationships. Go take my advice and go talk to Black Pete about this. Like, don't end up like me. So I do love that he does like make it up to Lucius in a way by like giving him actually good advice and like forcing him to see the advice for like what it is, you know? If you want to say this here, Kaitlynn.
We're down there? Oh, yeah. We skipped.
I skipped something. I'll come back to it.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Yeah.
That's my bad.
So I find it quite interesting why Stede doesn't seem to care or hear Lucius out, because Lucius starts talking about all the things he went through, and Stede is like, I can't hear any more of this, when normally he wants people to talk it out no matter what it is. And it just doesn't make sense. Like, I understand that he's all about Ed now, and I guess it's just showing that he's one-track mind, I guess.
It's again, because, like, Lucius has been, like, his, like, assistant, basically. And so he's like, you just do what I say. You just do what I say. So in a way, he like really didn't acknowledge the, I guess, what his crew wanted in a way. Like he was just trying to get them to be a cohesive team, but not really like individually get to know what they wanted or needed. So maybe that's the reason. Because that was his fatal flaw with his family too. And it took like Mary like forcing him to see reality for him to be like, oh.
That's essentially what Lucius was doing, was forcing him to see reality again.
Yes, exactly. It's just
it's very much so Stede's favorite accessory is rose-colored glasses.
Yes. No, exactly. It is. And Lucius is like, let's throw that overboard. Steamy. Anyway, I think I already talked to that. Okay, yeah. So anyway, so Stede encourages Lucius to, once he recognizes the trauma for what he is, he encourages him to talk to Black Pete, and then basically is like, hey, I know that's scary, talk to me, which is cute. So like once Stede, so Stede's growing, once he sees that, he does pivot into like, okay, let me be a good friend to you and let me like actually like console you and help you. Like he almost plays therapist a little bit here. And so we get the story in this scene, we get the story of why he's called Rat Boy now, because the first ship he ended up on, he ended up as the rat catcher for that crew when they forced him to catch rats with his teeth, which sounds terrible and really dangerous. Because
and how do you do that?
I don't know.
Dangerous to the fact like you don't really have that much leeway with your mouth. Like you would just keep running into things with your nose and stuff.
That, and they carry plague, so like dangerous for a number of reasons. But that's how we got the name. It's because the dog that used to do it, they ate the dog, and they're like, you're our dog now. Catch them the same way.
Don't hurt the doggy.
The reality of being at sea.
I think
the poor doggy.
I think the best thing is there's actually a website called didthedogdie.com, and it talks about media in which there is a dog in it, and you can like go and like look up what movie you're like watching to see if the dog actually dies.
I can't handle it.
That's great. It's sadder when pets die than humans.
Especially dogs, for me at least. Like, those little faces, they just love you unconditionally, and then if they just...
It's cute.
But it's one thing for them to naturally go. There is another
to that's one thing.
Murder them and eat them.
Yes. Well, desperate times. But
I will say... Oh, sorry.
No,
I will say the one thing that I kind of dislike is, and I definitely feel like this was unintentional by the writers, but it definitely feels like they were kind of playing off the Asian stereotype of being dog eaters. So I didn't quite like that. I felt kind of icky.
Yeah,
like I get like they're at sea, they don't really have an option, but like
why a dog?
Right?
They should have stuck with birds.
In the context of saying that while they're on Zheng's ship, I totally agree. If that was in isolation and they were talking about like European ship people, it would have been less weird. But yeah, I agree. I also had that thought, and I was like, I don't love this placed here in Zheng's ship. This feels bad.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking while we're talking about it right now. I was like, oh wait.
Yeah. That's a whole rant for another day, but that's some fucked up shit. What's not fucked up though is Lucius finally talks to Black Pete and comes back to Stede, and he's like, yeah, I told him like some of it until he started getting nauseous, and then I stopped talking, but like we're working it through basically. And I like at the end he gives Stede advice about coping with Ed basically, and he says something like, some people are broken no matter what you do.
Oh my god, that line hits so incredibly fucking hard.
Yes.
Like, oh my god. Yes. And then just like before that with the fact of Ed wanting Archie and Jim to fight to like the death.
Oh my god.
Because that just ties in that, like with that quote being said, and then like this, like the Archie and Jim fight happening beforehand, like it purely just shows Ed's mentality of, if I can't be happy and if I can't have love, nobody can.
Yeah. It's very,
so either y'all fight or everybody dies, because I'm not happy, so y'all won't be either. And then like that line gets delivered of, some people are broken no matter what you do. Like, oh my god, it just ties in so good. And like you can relate to that so fucking well if you have like toxic family or like toxic relationships, or like just relating to the fact of no matter how hard you try to like kind of grow with a person, if they're stuck in their ways, they're stuck in their ways. It doesn't matter how many chances you give them, they're gonna still continue acting the same way because they know that you will accept that type of behavior no matter what you do. So
Yeah.
it astronomically hits hard.
And it's fitting for a lot of relationships at this point in the show, like very much like Izzy and Ed. Like that is at this stage, it's a very broken relationship and can't continue as the characters are. But speaking of Ed, so I kind of I grouped all the revenge stuff together. So let's get back into that. So meanwhile, on the revenge, like Ed, in the wake of like getting rid of the figurines, he is going cold turkey on the Stede stuff, like, and just getting his shit together. No more booze, no more rhino horn, no Izzy. Izzy's gone now, right? That was something super toxic because he's under the impression that Frenchie has killed Izzy, which of course he hasn't, which is good for this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the crew basically has been hiding him in a secret passage and trying to like help him now that he's been shot. So they leave it to I don't know how they got this assignment, but it's left to Archie and Jim to amputate Izzy's rotting leg. And I love this scene. I think it's really funny. Jim is clearly nervous and holds out basically like an axe and like I think it's a saw. I don't know why my kid celebrating the amputation of Izzy's
Oh my
leg.
God.
Fireworks just went off.
Perfect. Absolutely
Thanks.
perfect.
Thanks, Apple.
I think because it looked like this, and I think that might have been it.
I don't know. But anyway, axe and like I guess it looks like a cleaver, but it's like serrated, so maybe it's a saw. I can really tell. But anyway, Jim's like, I've never done this before. Which one do I which one, basically? And Archie is like half listening and basically like, the fucked up one, obviously, like meaning the legs.
I really love Archie and all the chaos that they bring to the ship this season. But also, how are they amputating a leg? How is he not bleeding out?
A tourniquet. So if you look at him later, he's got they made a tourniquet, which is basically where they took a belt and they like on his thigh and they like make it as tight as possible to stop the blood flow. So it like seals it off kind of like at the upper thigh. So when you amputate more distal to that, like the lower leg, it won't bleed through that. So
not to mention, depending how far like necrosis or sepsis is, that can also like clot bleeding. So because it's just dead tissue at that point. There's no cells going to it to revive and revamp the blood flow. So there's multiple different like ways. I did think it was kind of funny though how Ed makes the comment of like something along the lines of like you don't think I can smell my best mate rotting. Like even without the implication of him knowing that they didn't actually kill him, there's still the fact of the matter, his body would have fucking rotted if Frenchie actually did the job anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
he was fucked. So Archie and Jim figure out the amputation. And afterwards, there's this cute moment where Jim is reminiscing after Archie asks why Jim seems to care so much about Izzy. And Archie's like, he's kind of a dick. And Jim's like, he's our dick. And Jim has this really beautiful set of lines where they say, there was a time when life meant something on this ship, when we lived for each other, not just to survive. Guess you never know when you're in the middle of the good old days. And I love the montage of just like the crew with Stede and just like everything we've said before, where like they didn't realize how good they had it with Stede until it got really fucked up with Blackbeard. And so I love that Jim still is holding on to like what they gained with Stede, which is that they were a family, they were a crew that like loved each other and like saw each other as people. And Jim is still like clinging to that, despite Blackbeard basically trying to create this hostile environment where humanity is gone from everybody. They're just bloodthirsty pirates. Like there is no humanity. Like, so I love that Jim is still clinging to that hope. And Archie sees that as really sweet and like ends up kissing Jim. And basically saying it's because you have hope. And I find that really cute because like Archie is basically the typical pirate who's like, this, it is what it is. So like later when Ed catches them and has the whole fight to the death thing, Archie immediately switches and is punching Jim and is like, this is what being a pirate is. Like, it was cute that you had hope and all, but like, this is what life at sea is like. It's fucking brutal. And, you know.
But it's a great moment for Archie to kiss Jim, like with rotting flesh near them, things up their nose.
They were covered in blood. Like, hey, when the moment strikes, you know?
I do not.
Okay. One thing I want to note about the scenes with Ed later in this scene is Ed has his hair up, which is interesting. And that's not typical for him. So, like, to me, it almost gave him an air of, like, being more serious than normal. And sometimes with, like, wardrobe and hair, like, somebody, when they have their hair up or tied, it can indicate that, like, the character is hiding something, which Ed is definitely hiding his heartbreak, but also can indicate that, like, the character is trying to be perceived as, like, in control, which I think are all things that Ed is trying to absolutely 100% project in his Blackbeard cosplaying, basically. Okay, so after the amputation, and Ed finds it out. Ed ends up under, below deck with Izzy, and they basically, quote, make up. So Ed tells Izzy about this dream he had where Izzy shot him in the back, basically. And then he produces a pistol, and he's like, here you go, in case you're feeling inspired by the story I just told you. And Izzy, like, thinks about it. Like, he does point the gun at him and thinks about it. But Izzy is somebody who, despite the bullshit, knows Ed really, really well. And he figures out what Ed is doing. And he starts laughing. And he's like, you fucking clean up your own mess. I'm tired. I've done that my whole life. I'm tired of it. Meaning that, like, he's like, Ed, if you want to, like, take yourself out of this equation and take yourself out of this world, you're going to have to fucking do it yourself. I'm not doing it for you. Like, he's almost like, they keep bringing up the doggy heaven. It's kind of like Ed is being like, put me down without saying it, and Izzy's like, do it yourself, which I love. Like, good for Izzy.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. It was like, I hate to say the easy way out because that opens up a whole nother conversation, but
in Ed's brain, he only sees two options. It's like, be Blackbeard and be miserable, or just end the misery, basically. That he only sees two options right now, which is unfortunate.
Which I can definitely, like, relate as somebody who deals with, like, chronic pain as well as, like, having celiac. Like, I'm in a state of constant fucking annoyance. So I get where he's coming from. It definitely is, like, a different take considering that, like, I am not one-to-one dealing with what he's doing. But, like, as somebody who's, like, in constant pain, I definitely understand. And, like, that's a very grim thing to say. But, like, I get where he's coming from. Because, like, I personally can bring myself to do that. Because, like, I have, like, my pets and everything. Like, yeah, I've tempted before, but now that I have, like, my sweet little Peanut and, like, her owner passing away before, I can't do that to her again because I'd be the shithead.
Go Peanut.
So, like, in this situation, Ed's Peanut is Stede.
Yeah. Yeah. And Izzy's
that
like,
sentence in general, though. Ed's Peanut is Stede.
Ed's Peanut is Stede.
And, like,
the title of the episode.
It's a very fitting, like, analogy because, like, Stede is very much so a golden retriever.
Yes. Oh my god, yes. 100%.
I think, Theora, you have an analogy for them that has golden retriever. I will save it for the later episode, but I loved it.
Great. Okay, so bottom line is, like, Ed wants the misery to stop, and he's not strong enough to do it himself. So he's like, I counted on Izzy to do it. Izzy said no. All right. So he leaves the room, and then we hear the pistol go off, and the assumption is that Izzy shot himself. And Ed's like, goodbye. I loved you, I guess. And, like, I wonder about that line, like, is when he says, I loved you, like, was Ed being sincere? Because, like, nobody's in the room. He's saying this basically out loud to himself. So I wonder, like, was Ed being sincere? Like,
I think he was, especially with what we see later. I think deep down he knows that he did. He might not show it, but, like, they were together the most out of everybody. So there is a bond there. It's not a healthy one.
No.
But that was his person.
Someone is at the
Someone's at the door, guys.
The fucking mailman. Because I know it's UPS because he always presses the doorbell. That scared the fuck out of me. I was not expecting that.
Do you need to go get it?
No, my mom and little brother's home, so they can do it.
It's very sea-wish of you, Kaitlynn. Okay. All right. So then after that, yeah, I agree with you guys are saying. I think that it was said with an air of insincerity, the way he delivered the line, but I think he was being sincere. And like, because he says later, like, Frenchie, you gave me closure with Izzy, and I think that was his like version of closure in a way, or what he felt
It's
like.
It's also very like ironic that, and like it further shows like what Ed's mentality is, that he's like actively wanting the crew to kill Izzy when he's like most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's very like interesting since, like, as we said, they have history. They've been together the longest out of presumably everybody. So the fact that he's just so carelessly like, all right, go kill him. That's your job now. Go kill him. So like it's very telling about like how fucked his mental state is.
Yeah, like so many signs of just the fact that he is 100% not okay. And like in the power dynamic of captain versus crew, there's not much the crew can do if the captain is shutting them down, unless there's a mutiny, which is where this is ultimately headed. So after Ed fails with Izzy, he's like, I have to get the crew to mutiny. That's because they'll kill me. And that's how I'm going to get this done. So what does he do? He goes up deck and he steers the ship directly into a storm. They're in the Caribbean. So like that is a tropical storm. Those storms are no fucking joke, as somebody who grew up in Florida. So he's like, fuck it. Right into the eye of a storm, right into the storm, not the eye of the storm. Eye of the storms are calm. Into the storm. And then he removes the steering wheel. He's like, that's where we're headed. Fuck it. And he's like, and I'm gonna shoot a cannonball into the mast, so we have a 0% chance of surviving this. And the crew is like, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? But it's still like boss versus employee situation. So Ed's like, okay, all right, I won't do it if Archie and Jim fight to the death. And Jim's like, absolutely not. But then Archie punches Jim, and it's just like, this is life. The hope was cute and all, but like, this is what being a pirate is. And then all hell breaks loose. The storm I like how they shot this, and then with the song, and it's really like powerful. Like basically, the storm is raging, and then a mutiny starts to happen where they just turn on Ed, and the tipping point is when Izzy emerges, because he's not dead. He's hobbling on his leg. Or hobbling. And he basically like, I forget if he shoots something to like scare. I think he uses the pistol or something to shoot at Ed to like stop him from like shooting the cannonball into the mast. And so Jim takes the cannonball, and they're all like around Ed, and Ed is on the ground at this point, and you just see him laughing, being like, "Yes, it worked. They're gonna do it for me. This is the mutiny I wanted." He's like, "Put me out of my misery," and like it ends with basically like Jim, like the cannonball comes over Jim's head, Jim's screaming like, and is gonna like crush Ed, and it's just like fade to black, basically.
We still don't know where this cannonball actually ended up, though.
No, we don't know what happened, actually.
Like, we know that they to the brink of death.
Right.
Do they know they didn't kill him?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Because also, why would you keep a dead body on the ship?
Yeah, if they were trying to hide the mutiny, they would have thrown him overboard.
I mean, honestly, like, they could have just kept him because they wanted to give him, like, a proper burial, even though that he fucked him over. So that could have, like, a large thing to do with it.
I don't think that that's what they would be thinking of at that moment, though.
Not in that moment.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's something Izzy would do. Because, like, I feel like Izzy is guilty over the fact that he did this. Like, he's the one that pushed Ed into being this crazy version of Blackbeard that was just the devil, basically. I think he feels a sense of responsibility for like how Ed's behaving and how far gone he is. So I wonder if that was a sentimental decision from Izzy to like keep him and like, or at least for the time being, because like in the next episode when they find the crew, like basically like the storm ravages the ship to the point where like it can't sail, so like they're stranded. So like I guess they're like, well, we need to figure out what the fuck we're gonna do, and that like Ed maybe just got hidden and like left there for the time being.
Because it could have easily been like a panic thing, but I just looked it up. So like it could also be like my theory of it. It says based on the sea accounts read from around the golden age of piracy 1672 through 1728, which specify a burial location or from which can be inferred from the context, about half the bodies of men who died on a ship at sea were buried on land and half were buried at sea. So it could have simply just been like another historical element, or it could have also been a, oh fucking shit, we just killed Ed, what the fuck are we going to do? Holy shit.
Right. Post panic, because like in the aftermath of whatever they do to him, they're still in the middle of a storm with no steering wheel, and they have to like survive this now. So like, yeah, I wonder if it was a combination of all those things, and then they're like,
also,
oh, Ed.
for what it's worth, we never actually see Jim slamming the cannonball into him. We see them raising it, but we don't see and like going down, but we don't see where like they hit the cannonball on Ed's body. So it could have been survivable. They might have just wanted to fuck him up a little bit to like get him to kind of come back to reality so he stops acting fucking insane.
Yeah, and then they're maybe like, we'll see if he lives or not, and just left him in that, area.
In the crypt.
He's
now the crypt keeper.
That's Izzy's new role, crypt keeper. All right, so that's season 2, episode 1 and 2. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we close out this episode?
All hail Soup Bitch Pirate Queen!
I love me some Zheng. And Auntie.
And like, I know I said the season 1 outfits were cunty, but like knowing like, which if you want to know more about the Zheng's pirate crew outfit, definitely go check out our gypsy interview. But season 2 outfits were like even more cuntier, especially because of like just like Zheng's aspect and everything. Like I love it. They did an amazing job.
Oh my god, I love the details. I love the red flag. The poor unfortunate makeover the revenge goes through. Like, it's all good. I love it. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Gypsy's post, but she did post a picture of the Wee John socks.
Yeah,
and that made my heart so happy.
Oh my god, they're so cute. Go check out Gypsy's Instagram if you haven't, for context and the visuals. It's very adorable. All right, so that was episode 1 and 2. Again, we try to cover everything as thoroughly as possible, but I'm sure we always miss things. Leave comments of things that you like, things we missed, BTS info. We would love to hear from you. And next time we will continue with episode 203. So until next time, hydrate for lesbian Jesus.
And gay it up all over the place. Bye.
And with that, we've been Big Gay Energy. If you like this episode, check out all our other episodes right here on YouTube.
Please like, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more amazing super gay content.